Namaskar, hello, and a very warm welcome to CIET NCERT's live phone-in, a very special program of teaching learning interventions in inclusive classroom. Today is not just an ordinary program, it's not subject specific. It is based on the importance of buddy system in inclusive class. Now, to understand what is a buddy system, let me just read out the definition we have in the dictionary. And it says, the buddy system is a procedure in which two individuals, the buddies, operate together as a single unit so that they are able to monitor and help each other. And as per Merriam-Webster, the first known use of the phrase buddy system goes as far back as 1942, which is a long time ago. So this is what our topic is all about, and we have an expert with us. She'll be discussing each and every detail of buddy system, what are buddies, and how do they operate in inclusive classroom, and a lot more. If you have any questions, any queries, please feel free to reach out to us. You're watching us right now on PMeVIDYA channel number 1 to channel number 12. अगर आप हमें फ़ोन करना चाहें तो हमारा नंबर होगा 8800440559. And if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, that is ncertofficial, उसके चैट बॉक्स में अगर आप सवाल लिख कर हम तक पहुंचाएंगे तो भी हम उसे लेने की पूरी कोशिश करेंगे. आप अपनी स्क्रीन पर इस वक्त देख सकते हैं हमारे साथ एक साइन लैंग्वेज इंटरप्रेटर भी मौजूद हैं जो एक एक शब्द को आप सभी के लिए ट्रांसलेट करेंगी. एंड शी इज़ मिस स्तुति कुमारी. Welcome, ma'am. So let me introduce you to our today's expert, and she is Professor Yukti Sharma. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Tanvi.
So let me introduce ma'am to all of you. She is a professor in education from Department of Education, and she is also an academic secretary at Institute of Lifelong Learning, and that's a department in University of Delhi. So now that we have introduced the topic a little bit to all of you, let's just get into its details, and let me ask ma'am, could you please define, tell us all about buddy system and what is it in a school or in a classroom?
Right. So as first of all, a very good afternoon to all of you, and I would like to thank CIET NCERT, the entire team, to inviting me for this interesting program, and specifically a very relevant and meaningful theme. बहुत ही मैं कहूँगी important मुद्दा है ये. It's a very important theme because it's connected to each child in the school. Because we are talking in the context of school education, so I'm only referring right now to the learners of school education. Now, as Tanvi has already defined it in a very interesting way, taking up from one of the dictionaries, which is a very comprehensive definition. It's a deliberate pairing of learners so that they come together and they work as a team. They work as a single unit. Now, how do they work as a single unit? They work as a single unit so that they are able to complement each other. In today's world, how do we look at in education? It is that we understand as parents, as teachers, and even a child itself, that every learner is unique. Each child is unique. They have their own specific capabilities, potentialities, and what is there in one child may not be present in other child, So they have their own domains of potentialities. And this is what is the basis of a buddy system. So a child who is good in a particular domain, can be paired with another child who is good in some other domain. And when they work as a unit, they learn from each other. They not only learn from each other, they encourage each other to learn better. Also in this process, they may help each other to discover each other's potentialities. Like for example, one child, let's take an example of a child who is very creative. He or she is bubbling with ideas. He or she has many ideas, but is very restless in writing. Doesn't want to write or doesn't want to articulate its ideas to others. And then there is another child in the classroom, and he or she is very well versed in language, very good in language, very good in writing, very good in articulating. So if we team them up, I'm talking about in a general education system, in a general school, then they can complement each other. The child who is bubbling with ideas will have somebody to share his or her ideas, because the parents might not have time to share those, to listen to those ideas. Teachers also sometimes say, yes, I'll listen to them later, but the child has found a buddy to whom he or she can always share. And then the other child in the buddy system is eager to write, is very articulative, so would love to write and express his or her ideas in a very good language. So both of them team up to bring up those ideas and also document those ideas, maybe for a school magazine. So this is just an example I have given, which is a more generic example which all of us can relate to. Any child in a public school or a government school or any other school could be able to relate, because we have such children in our schools. And as teachers, as parents, we are always looking at these potentialities in our children, but sometimes we don't know, what to do with these potentialities. How can I help my child as a parent or as a teacher, to bring these potentialities, to actualize these potentialities into their real lives. So this is where the buddy system comes in. Now also, since Tanvi has asked me about what is buddy system, I would also like to share that what is the rationale behind, the academic, the educational rationale behind buddy system, so that we have more conviction for it as parents and teachers. We should not feel that somewhere, oh, as a parent, was it my responsibility to look after and to listen to my child's ideas, and I am transferring that responsibility to another child? Or as a teacher, was it my responsibility to channelize that child's ideas and to help the child do something with his or her ideas, and I have transferred my responsibility to the other child? It is not like that. ऐसा नहीं है. So the teachers and the parents have to understand that it's not only their responsibility, because peer learning is a very important aspect in the field of education. If children learn from teachers, they learn from parents, they also learn from their peer group, and they learn a lot. And that is also a very important form of learning. Many years ago, when this idea of peer learning was emerging, there was a concept called osmotic learning, which was defined as when two children, they are teamed up together, they work as a unit, the potentialities and qualities of one learner gets transferred to the other. And it was called as osmotic learning because osmosis, as people from science and also those who have studied science in their school years, they would understand is a process in which a fluid is transferred from the cell to the outside of the cell, in simple language if I say, or from outside to inside of the cell. So it's basically a metaphor, I would say, used here in learning, where the potentialities, the ideas, the understandings, the skills of one child may get transferred to the other, and also vice versa. It's not a one-side process. Both children are getting benefited. This is one rationale. The other is that over the years we know that the idea of intelligence has broadened. We don't see intelligence as only in one domain. Earlier we used to look intelligence as only intelligence in the academic field. But now, we see intelligence can be in any field. So a child can be intelligent in any way. It is we who have to discover that in which domain the child is intelligent or capable or has potentialities. Now, having said that, what then important is, as I said in the beginning also, each child is different from the other child, and therefore each child can be intelligent in a different domain. And therefore, the diversity that we have in learners, that diversity needs to come in interaction with each other. वो कैसे आएगा? वो तभी आएगा, it will come only when children interact with each other. The more they interact with each other, the more they will know about each other. They will know about self and others. Okay, this is me. I am good in science. But yes, she is my friend in the class and she is good in maths. I learn maths from her. She learns science from me. So this acceptance that we all are different, myself is important, I need to know about myself, but there are others in my classroom also, there are others in my school also who have other abilities, and I need to understand their abilities also, because it will help me to learn better and it will help me to learn more. So I think I have clarified to some extent, Tanvi, and I'm looking forward to more questions from Tanvi and all of you also.
Absolutely, you have clarified the topic actually, and the child actually you're highlighting here, we would like to know more about this child, and this sounds very similar to a friend, we generally call a friend, and we would like to know what is the difference between these two, a buddy and a friend, or are there any similarities?
It's a very interesting question that Tanvi has asked, because, in day-to-day life, we use it very synonymously. Friend, buddy, all the time, as the children grow up, they say that, oh, it's very boring to call a friend, let me call this friend as a buddy. So it's a language which is already in use with the children. So precisely that's the reason that buddy has been used as the nomenclature here. So the similarity is that the buddy as a term has come because it's more popular with the children. So if we want to work with the children, we have to use their language. But yes, it is different, because friend is someone of our choice whom we have, got connected, I would say subconsciously. I never thought that she would become my friend, and she became my friend. I never thought that I could do friendship with him, but I could. So it happens very naturally. Friendship is a very natural process which grows and we make friends, and it's a very important part of our life which naturally comes to us. But buddy is, and specifically buddy, if we are talking today in the context of education, school education, buddy is a deliberate pairing that we are doing between two children. So that's how it is different. First of all, it's a deliberate pairing. Secondly, it is done with the intervention of the teacher. It's the teacher who has the responsibility to do this. We don't leave it to the children. We require her intervention, his or her intervention, and also facilitation in the process. And that's how buddy is different. Plus, because it's more of a formal concept, it's a deliberate effort, so it would definitely have some nitty-gritties of it, some nuances, like who is going to be a buddy, what should a buddy do, what should both the buddies do respectively, what should be their roles, how they are going to benefit from each other, for how long are they associated with each other. So there are many parameters around which a teacher might be planning a buddy system for a group of children.
Okay, all right. Ma'am, now that you've mentioned that there are certain parameters on the basis of which a teacher chooses a buddy, let's just go into this detail. And what are those parameters? Just give us certain more things about these parameters.
Okay, yes, right. That's an important question, because, this selection is very important, that who is going to be the buddy. Now, there are certain children in the classroom, I mean the teachers would agree with me, even the parents would agree, because even they keep discovering in their child. Some children are very good at social skills. Now, what are these social skills? Social skills are like, for example, empathizing with others. Some children very quickly, understand what the other child wants. Sometimes, I hear children coming to me, or my friends' children coming to me who are in primary or middle school classes, and they come and they want to share with me that, there is a child in my class and I understand how the child thinks, I understand what the child wants. So that shows that there are children in the class who are able to understand other children's needs, they are able to understand other children's potentialities, what they want. In short, if I say, they are able to empathize others. Also, not only empathize, they are also sensitive towards others. So if they are able to empathize, they are able to they are sensitive towards others, they have good communication skills. So even if I am able to empathize, but I am not able to go and talk to the other person, my being empathetic won't help the other person. So if the child is also having good communication skills, for example, is able to communicate to the other child in clear terms, in simple terms, also is patient enough to listen to the other child, then those children are generally considered to be having good social skills. And these children should be selected for being buddy to begin with, and eventually I am not excluding other children from being buddy, because buddy is something which every child should experience. Being somebody's buddy is such a beautiful experience. But yes, other children may take time to develop those social skills. So in this process, when they get involved in a buddy system, they may also eventually grow in their social skills, which is also one of the purposes of buddy system, and then they would become buddy to others. So it becomes motivating also, that if today I am in a buddy system, tomorrow I can be somebody's buddy. The other parameter which is also important is to see that the two children that I am bringing together, they should have different potentialities, because if they will have same potentiality, they'll tend to come in a competition. I also have, you also have the same thing. No, I have it better, you have it less than me. So they'll enter into that kind of a competition. But if we have different potentialities, we would enter into a relationship of cooperation, which would be based on cooperation rather than on competitiveness. So we would in a way complement with each other. So that's another important parameter that the teacher has to identify. And of course, teacher nomination, I believe, is the best process to identify, to select a buddy.
Okay, so we can trust a teacher in selecting a buddy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so ma'am, we began this session by understanding what is a buddy system in a school or a classroom. But now, because this particular program is for inclusive classroom, let's just understand the significance of buddy system specifically in inclusive classroom.
Yes, that's true. Good that Tanvi has brought us back to the specific theme of today's session, which is inclusion. Now, in the case of inclusive education, we have already set the stage in general education, and now in the contemporary times we understand that there won't be any difference between general education and inclusive education, because all schools are going to be inclusive schools. All schools are evolving into inclusive schools. So therefore, it's important for us to understand that what is the idea of inclusion. Now, idea of inclusion, which is a very contemporary idea, is based on the idea of diversity, which we have been talking about in this session. Diversity is where children are different from each other, yet they are unique. They are not deviations from the normal. Now, I am specifically talking for the children with impairment, children from marginalized backgrounds. These are those children who have been excluded from the system. Why? Because it was considered, ये माना जाता था कि ये हमसे अलग हैं. They are different from us. Not merely different, but it was considered that we are normal and they are our deviation. So that brought the so-called normal people, normal children, as the dominant community of the society. But inclusion, according to inclusion, it's not a deviation. We all are different from each other. Impairment is also a condition which creates a difference in the other individual. It makes the individual different from us. We need to understand that like that. So if we understand diversity within the context of inclusion, we would understand that since we all are different, as we have been talking about in this session, we have different abilities, we have different potentialities, we can very well complement each other. Now in the case of inclusion, it becomes all the more important. Why? Because children with impairment were not there in the general schools before. They are now coming into the general schools. We know that we have right to education, and such initiatives by the government and also RPWD Act 2016, which talks of inclusion. So such initiatives by the government has actually brought these children into the schools. Now this is the phase going on when these children are coming and entering the schools, engaging in the schools, settling down, and therefore they need to be accepted, they need to be valued, they need to be welcomed in the school, and therefore buddy system becomes very important, because the buddy would not only help these children to settle in the school, to make them feel that you are a part of us, although we all are different from each other, and you also can help me in many ways as I can help you, but also the buddy system would sensitize the children who are not impaired, the so-called normal children in the school system would also be sensitized to understand that children with impairment are not, they don't belong to any other part of the society. They are very much part of our society, and therefore they are very much part of our educational institutions. They are like us only, just that they have some differences, as everybody, each of us is different from the other person. And therefore, for inclusion, and especially at this phase where we are making a transition from general schools to inclusive schools, it has become very important.
Okay. So ma'am, we are understanding that the buddy system is a very important part in the school, especially in the inclusive classroom.
Right.
So here, if I'll talk about on the school's behalf, how do they plan a buddy system?
Yes. So as we have previously also discussed, that the planning of the buddy system would require from some very specific ideas to very generic ideas. Specific in the sense that some of the context would be very specific, right? Like for example, because we were talking of inclusion, I would give an example related to a child with autism. Now children who have autism, they avoid eye contact because they avoid social interactions. They do not like to interact with other humans. It's a condition in them. So it's their preference. In today's world, when we are giving value to each individual's preference, that is also their preference. Now what happens is, if I bring a child with autism to the general classroom and attach that child with the buddy, it won't be possible. Why? Because the buddy is situated in the general classroom where there are many other children, and the child with autism may not be comfortable. So what can I do as a teacher? My planning would be a little different because it's a very specific context. Rather than bringing the child with autism to the general classroom, I will take his or her buddy to the special classroom. Now a special classroom is a class where only few children are there, and a child with autism is settled there already. So the buddy will go there for some time, and then I have to see when can the buddy go to the special classroom. So I have to plan that time also, and would help the child with autism to interact with him or her, and then gradually when the child with autism opens up, can be brought to the general classroom. So the buddy here is helping the child to come to make a shift from a special classroom to the general classroom. This is one context. If we take a context of a larger idea or a generic idea, suppose the whole school. Now in many schools what happens, primary school is separate from the middle school. So after class 5th, children have to come to the so-called senior school. Now in primary school, 5th class children were the senior most, and they have that habit of getting the attention. All of a sudden they are shifted to senior school in class 6, and there they become the youngest, and they have to follow the seniors, and they know the seniors are all around ready to bully them maybe, or ready to order them, and they have to follow now. So therefore sometimes children face a lot of settling issues. Now this is another context where buddy system can be planned across the classes. So, a child from class 9th or 8th, whichever the way the teacher finds it more relevant to be, can allocate a buddy to the class 6 child. So, each class 6 child can have a buddy from a senior class. And that buddy's role, of course, would be to settle the child not in the class, but in the school. Because the child has come to a larger setup now, to a senior school, and feels the need of getting settled in the large school. So there the role of the buddy would be different. So therefore, what would be the role of a buddy, how can we plan it, would totally depend upon the context of the school, the context of the classroom. These are some of the examples.
Okay. Ma'am, we've got last 1 minute left for this very interesting conversation, and due to the time constraint we have to wrap up our program here, but we'll take a couple of more questions and then we'll wrap up. Sure. Is there any gender for this buddy system, or this is gender neutral?
It is totally gender neutral. There is, it's a good question, because it's a question more to create an awareness that we should not attach it to any particular gender. It is totally gender neutral. Who is going to be the buddy, who is going to be the child with the buddy, all that is gender neutral. Totally depends on the child's potentiality, irrespective of gender or any other dimension that we see in the school.
All right. So there are students who are watching this program, there are students from Inclusive Classroom who are watching this program, their parents, teachers, everybody is watching. Is there any particular message, one thing which you would like to tell them?
Okay, so one thing that I would like to tell to the school, to the teachers and to the parents is, a very important aspect is parents' involvement, parents' agency. Parents should have role in their child's education. Now when we are introducing buddy system, I would not say that parents should be asked about it, but parents should be involved, they should be oriented. Now suppose a buddy, suppose a parent's child is being made buddy, the feelings that a parent might get, oh, my child would be burdened, now my child might have to look after another child, how will he or she complete his or her work? So it's very important, that the teachers and the schools should have orientation programs related to buddy system for the parents, to make them understand that it's a mutual process, it's a two-way process. We do not want that one child should become dependent on the other child, and we also do not want that the dependent child should anyways take advantage of the buddy. We want to establish an atmosphere of interdependence where we understand our society is based on that idea. So the school should reflect that idea. So therefore the parents should be oriented so that they would wholeheartedly support their child in becoming and taking the role of a buddy. And the other message I would like to give to my dear children, when you are given a role of the buddy, right, don't become a dominant leader, become a social leader. Try to understand the other child, because you can also learn from others. Like I have learned so much today from Tanvi's questions. She made me think about so many things when she was asking questions. So be very humble with your friends and try to learn from them. And also the child, the other child, if you become the other child in the buddy system, don't think, oh, I have this buddy at my disposal. He will do all my work. She will do all my work. I'll sit and relax. Please don't become dependent on your buddies. You have to equally participate. So both of you are buddies and both of you are interdependent and learning from each other. That should be the idea, so that both of you grow and there should be an atmosphere of cooperation rather than competition. This is what I would like to say. All the very best.
That's a perfect message actually, ma'am, because it's a teamwork, there's interdependency, and one should not take the advantage of the other. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful conversation. It was a pleasure having you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to our sign language interpreter as well for interpreting each and every word we discussed here. And thank you to all our viewers for watching this very special program on importance of buddy system in inclusive classroom. We're wrapping up our conversation here. If you have missed it, please watch it again on NCERT Official, that is our YouTube channel. Thank you once again. Please take great care of yourself, and I'll take a leave for now. Thank you. Namaste.